I'll never forget the moment my daughter called me on Christmas Eve, her voice trembling, saying, "Mom, it's so quiet here." I asked where she was, thinking she might be at her father's or maybe out with friends, but then she said, "I'm at Grandma's, but nobody's here. The house is empty." My heart dropped so hard I couldn't even breathe. How could my own family, the people I grew up with, the ones who told me that Christmas was all about family, have left my little girl alone in an empty house? Tell me honestly, if your family did something like this, would you ever forgive them? Because I still don't know if I can. So here's what happened. I'm a single mom to a 10-year-old girl named Lily. She's my entire world. Her dad left when she was 2, and it's been just the two of us ever since. Life hasn't been easy. We've had moments where I wasn't sure if I could pay rent, nights where we ate scrambled eggs because that's all we had, but we've always had each other. My parents live about an hour away, and I have 2 siblings, my older brother Mark and my younger sister Jenna. Growing up, Christmas was always a big deal in our family. My mom would start decorating right after Thanksgiving. The whole house would smell like cinnamon and pine, and Dad would play old Christmas records while pretending to hate all the cheesy carols. When I was a kid, I used to think our Christmases were perfect. But as I got older, I realized the truth. My family only valued perfect if it looked good from the outside. When I got pregnant young and had Lily, that image cracked. They smiled and said they'd support me, but the looks, the whispered conversations when I left the room, told me everything. I wasn't their golden child anymore. Still, every Christmas I made the effort. I brought gifts, I baked cookies, I helped clean up after dinner. I did everything I could to make sure Lily still had that sense of family. This year, though, things started to feel different. Around early December, my mom called to talk about Christmas dinner. Normally, she tells me the date and what time to arrive, but this time her tone was hesitant. "Sweetheart," she said, "we're doing things a little differently this year. The house has gotten crowded, and with Mark's kids, Jenna's boyfriend, and everyone else coming, there just might not be enough room." I was confused. "What do you mean, not enough room?" "We've all always gone there," she sighed. "You know how it is, honey. The kids are growing, we have a big crowd, and I thought maybe you could come by earlier in the day instead." "Like maybe Christmas Eve afternoon? Before dinner?" I sat there in silence, holding the phone, trying to process what she was really saying. "So you're saying we're not invited for Christmas dinner?" "Oh, no," she said quickly. "Not like that. It's just, well, Mark's bringing his wife's parents this year, and Jenna's boyfriend's family might stop by, so the table's going to be packed. We only have so many chairs, you know?" I wanted to laugh, but it came out like a broken sound. They had enough room for everyone else's in-laws, but not for their own daughter and granddaughter. I asked if we could maybe squeeze in. Lily's small, she doesn't take much space, but my mom just kept saying, "It's complicated, sweetheart. We'll do something special another day, I promise." When I told Lily, she tried to smile. She said, "That's okay, Mom. We can have our own dinner, right?" She's the kind of kid who tries to make everyone feel better, even when she's hurting. But I could see it in her eyes. She loved her grandparents. Every year she'd sit by my dad's chair and help him carve the turkey. And now she wouldn't even get to be there. I tried to stay calm, tried to tell myself maybe it was just a misunderstanding. But then a few days before Christmas, I saw pictures on Facebook. My mom and sister decorating the big dining room table. There were 12 chairs. 12. And when I counted the family members, there were 10. So why did she say there wasn't room? I showed Lily, and she tried to brush it off, but I could tell it hurt. I told myself I wouldn't let it ruin our holiday. We'd make the best of it. On Christmas Eve morning, I had to work a short shift at the grocery store. I hated leaving Lily alone, but she was excited to bake cookies for Santa and watch Christmas movies until I got home. Around noon, my mom called. She said she had a present for Lily and asked if she could come by the house to pick it up. I thought that was at least something, a small olive branch. I told her I'd drive Lily over there and pick her up afterward, but my mom said, "No need, honey. Mark's already here. He can swing by and get her, and you can pick her up later." That sounded fine, so I said yes. Mark came by around 1 p.m., all cheerful, acting like nothing weird was going on. He picked up Lily, and she was so excited. She packed a small bag with cookies and a card she made for Grandma. I told her I'd be done by 5 and would come get her by 6. Work was busy, and I didn't get out until 5:30. I texted Mom to say I was on my way, but got no reply. Then I texted Mark. Nothing. I figured maybe they were just busy with dinner. When I pulled up to my parents' house, though, everything was dark. No lights, no music, no cars in the driveway. I thought maybe they'd all gone out to look at Christmas lights, but then I saw the front door slightly open. Inside, the house was silent. No smell of food, no laughter, just cold air and a few decorations still lit up. I called out, "Hello? Mom? Dad?" No answer. Then I heard it, a small sniffle from the living room. I walked in and there she was. My little girl, sitting on the couch with her coat still on, holding her backpack and her plate of cookies. She looked up at me with tears in her eyes and said, "Mom." They left. I knelt down, my heart racing. "What do you mean they left?" "Where did they go?" She said, "They said they were going to dinner at a restaurant, and Grandma told me to wait here for you." I don't remember much after that moment except the sound of my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. My family, my own flesh and blood, had left my child alone in an empty house on Christmas Eve. No dinner. No warmth. Nothing. I hugged her so tight she could barely breathe. She kept saying, "It's okay, Mom, it's okay," like she was trying to comfort me. That night, I drove us home in silence. When we got there, we made macaroni and cheese and sat by our tiny fake Christmas tree. She tried to laugh and said, "See, this is better anyway. It's just us." But when she went to bed, I sat in the kitchen and cried until my chest hurt. The next morning, I got a text from my mom. "Merry Christmas. Hope you and Lily had a great night. Sorry we missed you. Things got a little hectic, but we'll plan something soon." I stared at my phone, wondering how she could be so casual. I didn't reply. Later that afternoon, Jenna called me. She said, "Hey, Mom's upset you didn't come by today." I told her what happened, how Lily had been left alone. There was a long pause, and then she said, "Oh, well, I think there was some confusion. They didn't realize you weren't with her." That made me snap. "What are you talking about?" "She's 10 years old. Why would anyone think it's okay to leave a 10-year-old alone on Christmas Eve?" Jenna said quietly, "Look, I'm not saying it was right, but Mom thought you were on your way. Then they had reservations, and they didn't want to lose the table, so..." I hung up. I didn't need excuses. For the next few days, I tried to move on. Lily seemed fine. Kids are resilient, but I could see the disappointment in her eyes every time someone mentioned Christmas. She'd spent hours making cards for everyone only to be forgotten. A few days later, Mark sent me a message saying I was being too dramatic and that nobody meant any harm. He said I should stop making the family feel guilty, so that's the situation I was in, and I had to make a choice. Should I forgive them for what they did and try to move forward, or should I finally stand up for myself and protect my daughter from being hurt again? Before I tell you what I decided, I want you to pause for a second and tell me in the comments, what would you have done in my shoes? Would you forgive them for the sake of keeping the family together, or would you walk away for good? All right, here's what I did. A week after Christmas, my mom called again, this time crying. She said she hadn't slept well since that night. She said she kept thinking about Lily sitting alone in the living room, and it made her feel sick. I told her it should make her feel sick. I told her I trusted her with the one person I love most in the world, and she let her down. She started apologizing, saying she never meant for things to happen that way. Apparently, Mark and his wife had made the dinner reservation, and when I didn't show up at exactly 5:30, they assumed I wasn't coming. My mom claimed she thought Lily would be with me any minute, so they left the house unlocked for me. It was such a pathetic excuse that I didn't even know what to say. I told her, "You left a 10-year-old alone because you didn't want to miss dinner? Do you hear yourself?" She cried harder, saying she knew she was wrong. She begged me to forgive her, said she wanted to make it right, said she'd do anything. For a long time, I thought about it. I wanted to forgive her. I really did. Because part of me still wanted my parents, still wanted that feeling of family. But every time I looked at Lily, I remembered the way she looked that night. Small, quiet, trying to be brave while sitting in an empty house that should have been filled with love. A few weeks later, Lily came home from school with a project. She had to write about her favorite holiday memory. When she read it to me, I almost broke. She wrote about how Christmas is special even when it's just you and your mom, because love makes a family, not how many people are around the table. She ended it by saying, "I'm lucky because my mom never leaves me alone." That night, I decided. I called my mom and told her we needed space. Not forever, but for now. I told her she needed to understand that actions have consequences. That trust, once broken, doesn't magically fix itself with an apology. She cried again, said she understood, but I could tell she didn't really get it. The next Christmas, I didn't hear from them. No calls, no texts. And you know what? It hurt, it really did. But that year, Lily and I made our own traditions. We baked cookies together, watched movies in our pajamas, and I surprised her with a used guitar she'd been wanting for months. She told me it was the best Christmas ever. Eventually, time softened things a bit. About 2 years later, my mom reached out again. She asked if we could meet for lunch. I agreed cautiously. She seemed different, older, quieter, humbled. She told me she'd been going to therapy, trying to understand why she'd always cared more about appearances than people. She said she realized she'd failed both me and Lily, and that she couldn't undo the past, but she wanted a chance to be better. I told her I appreciated that. I told her that maybe someday we could try again, but this time, it would be on my terms. No more pretending everything was perfect. No more forcing Lily to fit into a family that didn't make space for her. Since then, things have been slowly improving. My mom and Lily write letters sometimes. It's not the same, and maybe it never will be, but that's okay. Because I finally learned something I should have known long ago. Family isn't defined by blood. It's defined by love, effort, and the people who show up for you when it matters most. If you've ever been made to feel like there was no room at the table for you, please know that it's not your fault. Some people will always prioritize comfort over compassion, but that doesn't mean you have to keep showing up to be hurt again. You can build your own table, your own family, your own joy. So, was I wrong for cutting them off? Maybe some people think I was too harsh. But I know that the night my daughter sat alone in that house changed everything. It showed me who I could trust and who I couldn't. If you are on my side, please hit that like button. Subscribe for more stories like this one, and tell me in the comments what you would have done if your own family left your child behind on Christmas. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you all in the next story.